آزادی بیان،
言论自由。
free speech.
People talk a lot about net neutrality, network neutrality. Would you agree with the proposition that most of the world today does not really enjoy net neutrality?
Well, if you mean by net neutrality that every bit that comes through an ISP service is treated the same as every other bit, then I guess it's probably true that it's more honoured in the breach than in the observance. But it's not I mean, people treat net neutrality as if it were a theological principle. In fact, most of the time it ought to be a technical principle. So, for example, some kinds of data streams, because of their nature, need to be treated differently from others, and that's fine. There's no controversy about that. In fact, and so that in some ways a network working efficiently would not be neutral towards every bit. It would discriminate between bit streams on the basis of their technical requirements, not on the basis of who owned them or was sending them or who was consuming them at the other end. That's the really hard bit, is this discrimination at the content level.
Do you think net neutrality is now very seriously under threat in the United States from Comcast and Verizon, a handful of other?
It has been under threat, but last week there was a really interesting development when Tom Wheeler, who's the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, said that he was going to propose to the Commission that the way in which it regulates the internet is changed, so that ISPs become defined as telecommunications companies rather than as information providers. And if that happens, then at least the FCC will be in a position to implement net neutrality principles within the United States. Whether that carries over elsewhere, we'll have to see. But the Dutch government has already, for example, within Europe, the Dutch government has already legislated net neutrality onto its statute book. So, it's an interesting time.
But the power of example, if the United States remain, simplifying slightly, true to the principle of net neutrality, would be very important.
That would be very significant. And of course, we've observed the effect of, quote, thought leadership by the United States in the past in other ways, like, for example, in intellectual property, where it has not been a beneficial example. But in this particular case, it may be that it's a good thing.